Hello and welcome back to Boring History for Sleep. Tonight, we invite you to gently drift through the sands of time to the slow, sun-baked rhythms of ancient Egypt. A world of mud, monotony, and quiet perseverance. You won't be hearing stories of gods or golden tombs just yet. Tonight, we begin much lower to the ground, among clay walls and open skies. In the still and dusty world of a small Nile-side village around 1300 BCE, imagine it now. The sun not yet risen, but the sky already glowing with the soft amber of coming heat. A thin morning mist curls above the marsh grass, and somewhere a water bird calls. In this world the air is thick with the scent of wet clay and straw. Again, the earth is cracked and cool beneath your feet. And you are just one of hundreds, maybe thousands, waking up to do the same thing. To make bricks. Let's ease into their world now. Their sounds, their textures, their forgotten names. In ancient Egypt, settle in. Let your breath slow. But because the village moved in rhythm with the light, and imagine yourself waking up as a mud brick maker, you would wake before the sun, not because you wanted to. Quiet voices, coughing, the shuffle of sandaled feet. And by the time the sun was high, the work would already be unbearable. So you rose with the shadows. Your sleeping mat, if you had one, was made of woven reeds. It creaked softly beneath you as you stretched your sore legs. The ground was still cool. That wouldn't last. Round you, the village began to stir. The walls of your home were made of the very same bricks you would help build today. Simple blocks of mud and straw, shaped by hand and dried in the relentless sun. It leaked in the rains, but those were rare. The roof sagged slightly. Your fingers, cracked from yesterday's work, still held the smell of the Nile, of silt and algae and clay. You didn't have a mirror, but you knew your face. Dust-streaked, young, yet hardened. Eyes squinting before the day even began. Breakfast, if there was any, was simple. Maybe a piece of old bread, a smear of lentil paste, a sip of beer, thick and warm, with a hint of sour grain. And then it was time. You joined the others near the village edge, where the earth met the slow green waters of the Nile. The river was already busy, women washing clothes, children laughing softly, fishermen tugging in their morning catch. But you headed for the mud? The worksite was little more than a wide, sunken pit. Shallow pools of water shimmered dully, stacked beside them. Straw, coarse, golden, and scratchy. Your task? Mix the mud. Stir in the straw. Stamp it down with your feet. Scoop it into a simple wooden mold. Lift. Then lay it gently on the ground to dry. Again and again and again. The rhythm of their lives was repetition. You might glance up now and then, to wipe your brow, to stretch your back, to hear the soft calls of ibises nearby, or the distant creak of a cart. But mostly, it was just mud, the smell, the squelch, the heat. As the sun climbed higher, the air grew heavy. Your tunic, already stiff with yesterday's labor, stuck to your skin. There was no shade, and the task, like time, moved slowly. Each brick weighed several pounds, and you would make dozens, maybe hundreds. You didn't keep count. No one did. The masters didn't care how many, only that you kept going. Sometimes you'd haul the bricks. Stack them beside the foundation of a temple or a storage house. You never asked what it was for. It wasn't your place. You'd carry them on your back or balance them in slings. walking through the narrow paths between drying rows of bricks. The ground hot, the air still, the work never quite done. By midday, your arms were numb. The sun bounced off the mud with a brightness that stung your eyes. You paused when the foreman allowed it, maybe to drink water from a clay jar. Warm, earthy tasting, but wet. You didn't speak much. There wasn't much to say. Everyone was tired. Occasionally someone would collapse, overcome by the heat. The others would help him to the shade, or leave him if they were told to. And then the rhythm resumed. Stamp, scoop, press, lift, lay, repeat. Insects hovered above the drying bricks, little gnats, persistent and slow-moving. Flies gathered at your back. You stopped swatting them long ago. Evening came slowly. The sun dipped low behind the palm trees, casting long shadows over the village. Your hands were blistered, your feet caked in drying clay. You washed in the river, not to get clean, that was impossible, but to cool your skin. Dinner was similar to breakfast. Some lentils, more bread. Maybe a boiled onion if you were lucky. And then silence. Night fell like a curtain. The stars shimmered above the thatched rooftops. Dogs barked in the distance. And your limbs ached as you lay back on your mat, staring up at the thatchwork. You slept. And when you woke, it would begin again. As the sun sets on this dusty little village, and the bricks begin to harden in the evening air, we turn now to a figure who also began in the dust, but whose path led not to mud pits, but to a throne. The sun has slipped behind the horizon now. The bricks lie drying in rows. The workers are asleep on their mats. The Nile glides on in the darkness, whispering softly to the reeds. Far from the brick pits, far from the sweat and dust of village life, there lived a man who, like you, began in humble silence, but whose quiet footsteps eventually led to the very seat of Egypt's divine kings. His name was Horemheb, and his story is not one of divine birth or great conquest or epic legend. It's slower than that, quieter, more like the slow carving of a statue, chisel by chisel, step by step. Let's begin. Imagine yourself in Thebes. Around 1350 BCE, the city is alive with ceremony. Temples rise beside the riverbanks, their stone walls glowing gold in the morning light. Priests move slowly beneath colonnades. Scribes etch records in ink, and nearby in the ranks of the military barracks, a young man named Horemheb sharpens his reed pen, not a sword, not a spear, a pen. You see, Horemheb wasn't born into royalty. He was likely the son of commoners, possibly from Heracleopolis, a modest city far from the palaces of power. But he was clever, patient, and most importantly, loyal to the rhythm of hierarchy. In a world ruled by image and ritual, he knew how to listen, how to nod, how to wait. He joined the military administration, rising slowly, not by battle, but by bureaucracy. He kept records, filed scrolls, transcribed commands. And yet, behind that quiet exterior, he noticed things. He watched the country was changing. Pharaoh Akhenaten had shaken the kingdom's foundation by proclaiming a single god, Aten, the disk of the sun. In building a strange new capital in the desert, far from the traditional seats of power, temples were closed. Priests were dismissed. Statues were smashed. It was a spiritual revolution. But to men like Horemheb, it was dangerous, chaotic, and when Akhenaten died, the court trembled. His successor, the boy king Tutankhamun, reversed course, reopening temples and returning the old gods. And Horemheb, now a trusted military commander, found himself closer to the throne than ever before. Still, he waited. He didn't rush, didn't demand. When Tutankhamun died suddenly, at just 19 years old, the court once again scrambled to maintain order. First came I, a senior advisor who ruled briefly. Then, after A's death, Horemheb stepped forward, calmly, without fanfare. There were no stories of divine signs or shining prophecies, just steady hands and quiet influence. He was declared pharaoh, the first in memory to rise from non-royal roots. But even as king, Horemheb didn't rule with excess. He dismantled what Akhenaten had built, not with rage, but with regulation. He restored the priesthood, rebuilt temples, and scrubbed the memory of the heretic pharaoh from official records. He didn't leave many monuments to himself, no towering statues, no grand tombs filled with gold. In fact, historians once believed he'd been forgotten entirely, until his name was found on a few weathered inscriptions, tucked behind layers of later rulers. It's believed that he chose not to pass the throne to a son. Perhaps he had none. Instead, he appointed a trusted general, and so the line continued. Horemheb faded into time. Not a legend, not a god, just a man. But a man who understood how to wait, how to endure, how to build his future, layer by layer, like bricks drying in the sun, and now beneath the stars. In the stillness of this desert night, we shift from rulers to mysteries, to the silence of tombs, and the curious puzzle of the missing mummies. The stars above ancient Egypt twinkled with steady indifference. The desert air cooled, and deep beneath the limestone hills, in long-forgotten chambers carved by patient hands, the mummies were supposed to sleep forever, but some of them were no longer there. In this soft and shadowed part of our story, we explore not what we can see, but what is missing. The hush of an empty tomb, a burial site sealed for eternity, found strangely vacant. This is the gentle, unfolding mystery of the missing mummies. Imagine yourself now in the Valley of the Kings. Far from the noise of cities, the wind is dry, the sky above you endless, and before you the entrance to a tomb, a slope carved into the rock, partially hidden by sand and time. You step inside. The walls once bore brilliant colors: red ochre, lapis blue, golden yellow, scenes of gods and pharaohs, spells and symbols from the Book of the Dead. But now the paint has faded. Dust gathers thick on the floor, and the sarcophagus at the center lies open, empty. This was not unusual. In fact, many of the most famous tombs, grand in design, etched in poetry, were discovered without their rightful inhabitants. The body of Thutmose II, gone. The great Amenhotep I vanished. Even tombs with golden treasures missing, as if someone had been there before. But who and when the answers come? Softly, the first layer is time itself. Tombs are not just for the dead. They are built by the living, and often forgotten by them too. As dynasties fell, new rulers repurposed old resting places. Grave goods were removed, melted down, redistributed. Even the mummies themselves were sometimes moved. In one case, during the 21st dynasty, a group of priests quietly gathered scattered royal remains and reburied them together in secret caches to protect them from looters. These quiet priests worked not with treasure, but with bones. They wrapped broken limbs in fresh linens. They reinscribed names onto fading coffins, not out of greed, but reverence, fear. You see, by this time, tomb robbery had become almost common in some eras. Even temple workers paid poorly, if at all, would sneak into burial sites to claim what they could: a ring, a necklace, a single jar of perfumed oil. Not to get rich, just to eat. But there's another layer to the mystery, more subtle, more bureaucratic. Ancient Egypt was an empire of order, scrolls, receipts, inventories, and yet even with all their records, the location of some tombs was deliberately obscured. To keep them safe, entrances sealed, markers erased, maps left vague, and so, over generations, some tombs were simply lost. When later workers carved new ones, they broke into the old. By accident, sometimes they removed the bodies, other times they just left them, disturbed, unwrapped, abandoned. The rhythm of their lives gave way to the silence of their afterlife. There is one final theory, a gentle one, a quiet whisper through time, that some mummies were never buried at all. Perhaps death came during a war. Perhaps a pharaoh died too young or unexpectedly. Perhaps the tomb was not yet finished, and the body was stored elsewhere for a few weeks, for a season, forever. In 1881, a hidden tomb was discovered in Deir el-Bahari, a mummy cache tucked away behind a false wall. Inside, over 40 royal mummies stacked together like forgotten scrolls. Many of them were still wrapped, the name tags tied to their bandages. That most three, Ramesses II, Seti I, all resting together, quietly, carefully moved long ago by those who wished to preserve their sleep. So when we speak of missing mummies, we are not always speaking of crime or mystery or theft. Sometimes they were simply relocated, like the old bricks of a crumbling temple, put elsewhere, forgotten but not lost. Just sleeping somewhere we haven't yet looked. And now, as we leave these shadowed tombs behind, as the dust settles back into cracks in the stone, we will rise again to the world above, to the world of those who lived not in heat and labor, but in linen robes and incense smoke. Let us now step quietly into the golden halls of a priest's household. The first light of morning spills across the stone courtyards of Waysot, what you would know today as Luxor. It's 1300 BCE, and the city stirs, not with rush, but with rhythm. We're not a mud brick maker today. You are not sleeping on reeds or carrying clay. No, in this moment, you live a very different life. You are in the household of a temple priest. The home is quiet. Set apart from the clustered mud brick homes of the village, the priest's compound is walled, calm, and neatly swept. The gate opens to a shaded courtyard. In the center, a fig tree, its leaves fluttering gently. Near the tree, a small water basin. For washing before rituals, you would wake not to the shouts of foremen, but to the sound of sandals on smooth stone. Servants move gently through the rooms, opening shutters to let in the soft gold of morning. The air smells of frankincense and cool stone. There are no flies here. or if there are, they are quickly swept away. The walls are whitewashed, smooth, and decorated with delicate painted images of lotus flowers and protective gods. Your bedding is soft woven linen, layered atop a wooden frame. Beside your sleeping mat, a carved box holds scrolls, prayer beads, and a small statue of Thoth, the god of wisdom. Breakfast is served in silence. Bread, yes, but fresh. Dates, sticky and sweet. A cup of spiced beer, clearer than the peasant's brew, filtered and served cool. A pet monkey, kept by the priest's children, scampers through the courtyard. It's small, curious, and surprisingly well fed. Now the day begins, but not with labor, not with bricks or carts or sweat. It begins with ritual.
Ow.
The priest dresses slowly. First, he washes his hands and face with water drawn from a special basin. Then, servants help him into his robes, layers of smooth bleached linen. They powdered his skin with crushed minerals, apply dark kohl to his eyes. He is being purified, prepared. He does not rush. You see, he must be clean before entering the temple, not just in body, but in mind. As he walks toward the temple complex, past rows of sphinxes, through towering pylons, he hums softly, a chant, words older than memory. Other priests join him. Each step is practiced, each word measured. Inside, it is cool and dim. The air smells of cedar wood and burning resin. Statues of gods loom in the shadows. Candles flicker low. He performs the morning offerings. He lights incense. He places food before the god's image, bread, beer, vegetables, and then carefully removes it to be eaten later. The gods are said to consume the spirit of the food, leaving the rest, untouched but sacred. Back at home, the priest's wife oversees the household, which is literate, unusual, but not rare for women of her class. She supervises weaving, maintains the household calendar, and tracks offerings. In the afternoons, the family gathers in the courtyard again. Musicians might come, playing soft melodies on harps and flutes. A scribe reads aloud a tale of old kings, or a poem to Malat, goddess of truth and balance. The rhythm of their lives is slower, measured, and steeped in ritual. But there are limits to this peace. Even priests must navigate power. They serve the gods. But they also serve the Pharaoh. And behind closed doors, even among temple walls, whispers move. Rumors, politics, jealousies. Still, the priest retires early. He has a private room, a shelf of scrolls, a carved headrest. He says his evening prayers to Osiris, to Isis, to the guardians of the night, and then silence. Above him, the stars return. The same stars seen by the brickmaker, same stars watched over the tombs, the same stars that Horemheb once glanced at in silence. This was Egypt, a land of contrasts, of dust and gold, of endless toil and stillness, where some carried bricks, some carried incense, where some lived short lives, and some left no trace, but all of them lived by the river, lived by the sun, lived by the rhythm of history. And now, as we slowly step out of this ancient world, as the candles fade, as the sand settles back over temples and tombs, we return to now. 2 soft pillows and quiet rooms. To the gentle breath of sleep waiting nearby, the Nile still flows. the sun still rises, and their stories remain. Not loud, not proud, but steady. Thank you for joining us tonight on Boring History for Sleep. Sleep well, and let the rhythm of their lives carry you into your dream.